Welcome to Community Health Matters. I'm your host, Kristen Priesall. Donating blood is a simple thing to do, but it can make a big difference in the lives of others. Regina Conway of the American Red Cross joins us to discuss how blood donations help millions of patients in need. Mentorship has a strong impact on a child's mental and physical health. Today, Carly Southworth joins us from Big Brothers Big Sisters of Middle Tennessee to discuss the long-term impact of mentorship in the lives of children. All of that coming up next on Community Health Matters. Did you know the American Red Cross supplies about 40% of the nation's blood? The national organization also provides international humanitarian aid, support to the military and their families, emotional support, safety skills lessons, shelter, and food. The Red Cross is a not-for-profit organization that depends on volunteers and the generosity of the American public to perform its mission. For more information, visit the Red Cross on Twitter. Did you know there are special requirements to donate blood? Blood volunteers must be 17 years of age, weigh 110 pounds, and be in generally good health to donate blood. Donors are required to have a blood donor card, driver's license, or 2 other forms of ID at check-in. To schedule a blood donation appointment, just call 1-800-RED-CROSS or visit redcrossblood.org. Approximately 40% of the U.S. population is eligible to give blood, but less than 10% actually do so. Why is that? We're going to talk about the need of giving blood and why it's so important, especially for the Red Cross. Joining us today is Regina Conway from the Nashville Red Cross, and we're so glad you're with us, Regina.
Thanks.
You're communications manager over there, so you're used to speaking up about giving blood. The demand is great. Tell us how great it is here in our area.
Yeah, in our area and across the United States, every 2 seconds someone needs blood. And so we're always in need of blood donations. And every day we need about 15,000 blood donations to provide what's needed in around 2,600 hospitals that we service throughout the country.
The demand obviously changes. Throughout the holidays, people get busy, but the demand also changes. It becomes greater. Why is that?
Well, around the holidays and around the summertime, we really see a dip in donations because people just aren't thinking about donating blood, really. If it's Christmas time, you're not thinking about going to a blood drive.
Sure.
But we ask that families do because it's really important to continue that donation process. And also during the summer and holidays, kids are usually out of school. And schools and universities make up about 20% of our blood supply. So when school's out for summer, we definitely feel a pinch. And you know, the problem is they may be on vacation or out for the holidays, but patients are still in our local hospitals. They're still battling their own, personal illness, chemotherapy, needing surgeries. And so that's why we have to continue to give.
And that's terrific that you say, that you're reaching out to universities and, even high schools. At what age, and we'll go over, who the ideal candidate is, but at what age can people start giving blood?
You can give blood when you're 16 years old. You have to have your parents' consent.
Okay.
But then 17 and up, and there is no maximum age limit. As long as you're feeling healthy and strong, we welcome anyone who's willing to roll up a sleeve.
So it could be a family occasion that everybody kind of come together.
Yeah, in fact, we've had families who have, for example, someone who has cancer in their a loved one who has cancer. They'll come in as a family and donate in their honor and kind of make it a party. And it's a really cool way to pay it forward and give back.
That's terrific. All right, well, I had mentioned off the top, 40% of the U.S. population is eligible to donate, but less than 10% actually does. What does this contribute to? I mean, are people nervous? What's the main reason?
The number one reason we're told is because people aren't asked. So I'm asking everyone who's watching to please give blood. And the number 2 reason is fear of the needle. A lot of people are afraid of that pinch.
Sure.
But when I get those concerns, I let people know, if you pinch the inner part of your arm, if you do feel a pinch at all, some people don't, that's about the maximum amount that you'd feel. And sometimes I feel a pinch when I give, but my brother had leukemia, and I kind of have to keep it in perspective. It's a little pinch is nothing compared to going through a round of chemo.
Yes, absolutely. Great point to make. Let's talk a little bit about how the blood donations are used, because what some people might not understand is that you all break the blood donations up into different components. Explain that a little bit if you don't mind.
Sure. So there are a lot of components in your blood, obviously, but the 4 main components that we break it down into are whole blood, red blood cells, plasma, platelets, and cryoprecipitate. So whole blood is typically used in traumas or in surgeries. Platelets are the component in your blood that help it clot, and that's often needed for cancer patients, because when cancer patients have chemo, it kills not only the cancer cell but also the platelet, and so you need those transfusions to make sure your blood can clot. Plasma is needed for typically for burn unit victims, and so is cryoprecipitate. Cryoprecipitate is used for hemophilia patients typically.
Okay, and the Red Cross obviously is able to divide these components. You give blood, and then kind of behind the scenes, you all are doing that work and then spreading it out to clinics or hospitals or whoever has the greatest needs.
Right.
Is that correct?
Yes, it is. We work closely with local hospitals and hospitals throughout the country to make sure that specific units are there for specific patients. Sometimes we have very rare blood types that we have to match and work as a Red Cross system to make sure that unit is there for the patient.
Okay, can someone come in to donate and say, I only want to donate platelets? They can.
You can, yes. You can donate platelets, and we call that process apheresis. It's very different from donating blood. It's the same requirements basically to donate blood, but when you donate blood, the donation process alone is you have a needle in one arm and it takes only about 7 to 10 minutes. Platelets is more involved. It's 2 arms and it takes about 2 hours. But we have people who donate platelets every single day, and it is amazing to me because people are willing to do that and sit there, and it really helps save a lot of lives when you donate platelets.
Do you see a lot of the same people coming back and donating?
We have regulars, and they always have the best stories because for someone to sit and give, they really understand. They understand the importance, and they usually have loved ones who have needed it to survive.
Regina, let's talk specifically about blood types, because something that I think a lot of people don't even know their blood type. So it's always important to know your blood type for various reasons. But as far as going to the Red Cross and being able to donate, talk specifically when it comes to blood type, which one is the most common and which one maybe is most in demand?
O positive is the most common blood type, but O negative is the universal blood type, which means anyone can receive O negative blood. So that is the one that's in the most demand because we want to make sure we have O negative blood on the shelf when there are emergencies in our community. For example, if you go through a traumatic situation, a physician may not have time to test your blood type and match you up. Anyone can just receive O negative on the spot. So a prime example, we keep O negative units on Vanderbilt's Life Flight because we know those patients are in a trauma situation, will likely not have time to get matched with a certain blood type. So that's why we constantly are talking about O negative blood donations, and they're needed. But really all blood types. We use every single blood type. We break it down, and there are so many different, components in your blood. We have to make sure certain matches are there for certain people, so everything's needed.
We should point out though, for those folks who have A or B, don't not give just because you think, oh, well, it's not common or it's not in demand. Because really, any kind of blood type you all will take, and it's going to be needed. Oh
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. We provide blood to all the local hospitals in Middle Tennessee, Southern Kentucky, parts of Missouri and Illinois. There are a lot of people out there who need help, and you're right, every blood type is needed.
Does blood expire?
It does.
Oh, okay.
It does. So all three, the 3 main components, blood, platelets, and plasma all have shelf lives. Blood is refrigerated. We keep it on the shelf for 42 days.
Okay.
That's why we're always in need, because it's bad after 42 days. Plasma can be frozen and stored for up to a year. And platelets can only be kept at room temperature for 5 days.
Wow.
So for 5 days, and then we, just need more donations. And a chemo patient, for example, can go through a couple units of this stuff per treatment. So when you think about it, it takes one donor 2 hours to give 1 unit, and a cancer patient can go
take
through
the entire thing.
Oh yeah. It's really remarkable. So platelets are an unsung hero, I feel, in the blood community, and something that people should really consider. Sure.
The Red Cross is really good about getting out to the media's attention, that you're holding blood drives and that kind of thing. But that's pretty much, you guys have an open door year round. It's not just at certain times. I mean, we should let the public know that this is something that is ongoing. You all have certain pushes at certain times to where, you get the word out. But explain to folks basically what a day would be like if they choose to come in and donate.
So donating is basically, you can break it down to a 4-step process. You check in, you show your ID, your driver's license, your donor card if you have one. And then you go through a health history exam when we'll take your blood pressure, we'll check your iron levels, check your temperature, and just make sure you're feeling healthy. We ask you some other questions about travel, things like that, to make sure you're eligible. And then you donate blood, if you're donating blood, for example, and 7 to 10 minutes is about how long it takes to just give blood. And an insider tip is to drink room temperature water. If you're hydrated prior to, it can help things flow a little quicker. And then once you're done, you enjoy refreshments, you sit down, and you get to kind of reflect on the fact that you really helped save a life. As corny as it may sound, you truly did in that 10 minutes. You gave someone a chance.
And you're pretty much on, we've seen them on the recliners or on kind of, you know,
the beach
you can
chairs.
lay down, you kind of relax. I mean, that way for people who feel like I'm going to get lightheaded or I don't know if I'm going to, you know, faint or pass out. I think that's, you know, a fear of a lot of people too. You're very comfortable during the process. And I think the volunteers who help out there and all, I mean, the staff too, really make you feel great while you're going out doing that.
We really try because we understand this is a personal experience. I mean, we're receiving your blood. We're getting your blood to give to somebody else. So we want to make it as pleasant as possible. And so, yeah, we have the chairs and they recline in certain ways to make sure if you're feeling lightheaded, we can try to assist you as quickly as possible. And we have a lot of veteran phlebotomists who are great. I've seen a lot of them in action and they know what to do. So
you don't have to go at a certain time of day. This isn't something that you have to wake up in the morning and go first thing.
Not necessarily. It depends on what time the blood drive is during the day. You know, if there's a blood drive or our blood center is open, you just want to go during operating hours.
Okay. Let's also talk a little bit about folks who might be interested, how they go about doing so, because it's not just a, hey, I'm going to walk in today and go give blood. I mean, do they call ahead of time? How do you get your donor card? All of that information.
My favorite way, and a way that a lot of people do it, is to go to our website, redcrossblood.org. You can type in your zip code of your home, work, church, whatever is most convenient for you, and find a list of scheduled blood drives in your area. You can sign up, schedule an appointment so you're in and out. You can also call 1-800-RED-CROSS and schedule your appointments. A human will pick up the phone and talk to you, or you can download the Blood Donor app and schedule your appointment that way.
Okay, and should we also mention who is a good candidate to give blood? We mentioned the fact that you have to be 16 years old with a parent consent.
Right.
But as far as, you know, feeling good and feeling healthy, for people who are sluggish or have been through some sort of medical crisis themselves, how do they know that they're a good candidate? Is it simply going to your doctor and having a good physical any given year, or do you have to really go through a vigorous kind of health check before giving blood?
We want to make sure you're pretty healthy because the patients we're providing your blood to need, you know, they're in a compromised situation. So the best thing to do is to go to redcrossblood.org. There's a full page of eligibility requirements that you can read over before you even sign up. So we don't want to waste your time. So if you want to read over that, that's wonderful. We want to make sure you're, like you said, 16 with parents' consent, 17 and up, weigh at least 110 pounds, and are just feeling good. If you're feeling good and strong, come on in.
All right, and you guys are all over social media, I know, too.
Oh, yes.
So you ring the bell and
That's
make sure people know that you're around. Regina Conway, thanks so much. I mean, for folks out there who maybe have not done it before, it is a very rewarding experience, and for all the great information you gave today, we appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Did you know mentorship programs like Big Brothers Big Sisters have a direct positive impact on the lives of children who participate? After 18 months of spending time with their bigs, little brothers and little sisters are less likely to begin using illegal drugs or alcohol, skip school or class, or hit another person. Mentored littles are also more confident about their performance in school and get along better with their families. To learn how to mentor a child in your community, visit mentorakid.org. Big Brothers Big Sisters of Middle Tennessee is an organization you've probably heard of before, but do you know how they change children's lives? Because they do, in a big way. Joining us today to talk about the program is Carly Southworth. She is the Vice President of Programs. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
As I mentioned, you all basically have a mentorship program to where adults will have this big or the little sister or little brother, and they help them in their ways and kind of navigate life and help them in their journey. But explain to us just what kind of impact it makes on these at-risk kids.
Sure. One of the unique things about our program is that each child that comes in really has their own individual strengths, areas of growth, and goals. And we try to identify those in partnership with the parent or the teacher and the child. And then that's what the volunteer mentor, or the BIG as we call them, works on with the child. So for each child, that's something different. That could be making more friends. That could be doing better in school than they have in the past, or learning a new skill, or tapping into a passion or a strength. So each child, the outcomes for each child in our program really are different depending on that child and their individual person and who they are coming in. And that's what I love, is we get to meet them where they are and really just walk alongside them in those things they've identified for themselves.
Explain, Carly, if you don't mind, how involved someone is with their little in some ways. And basically they are paired up with just one person, is that correct?
Correct. So we pair up one volunteer mentor with one child. And the involvement is, sometimes people have a misconception that they're replacing a parent or they're serving in a parental role, and that's really not the role of a BIG. The role is to support that child, walk side by side, and encourage positive, healthy youth development with that child in partnership with the parent. So they are required to see the child once a week and spend time doing things that they decide together or that promote positive youth development for that child.
We mentioned the children involved in this program, the youth, I should say, because you had mentioned that they're teenagers, are at risk. So talk a little bit about how the youth is, how they're signed up to begin with and who participates.
Sure. We specifically seek children who are from single-parent homes because we know those parents need support and that children need an army of adults, really, of positive adults. And so when there's a relationship already lacking, we like to look for kids that are already starting off with a parent raising their hand saying, I'm doing this alone and can I get some support? So single parent homes are one of our biggest focuses. And then we also have a program called the Amachi program where we specifically look for children that have an incarcerated parent and how we can support them. And sometimes the incarcerated parent is the parent that actually refers the child and they say, I know my children need this. So there are different pockets of youth in terms of coming at us with risk factors that we serve, or kids that aren't doing well academically and a teacher might refer, or are really struggling with peer relationships and positive decision making. Those are probably the three biggest areas that we look for youth.
I was going to ask you if the organization Big Brothers Big Sisters works with other organizations and even schools to be able to hand select certain kids, because it's obviously a process that you want to be very particular about and, you know, put them at ease and make them comfortable. So
Correct.
obviously you have a great relationship with a lot of organizations in town.
We do, and one of our primary requirements of kids coming into the program is that they want to participate. So regardless if an adult or a teacher or parent refers that child, they also have to want to be in relationship with a mentor, because the adult is not hanging out with the mentor, the child is. So, but we do partner with schools. We have a school-based program, which a lot of people don't know about, where the volunteer goes to the school 1 hour a week and doesn't transport the child, but spends time at the school with the child. So we have really strong relationships with the schools that we're in.
Okay, talking about the littles, obviously, that are involved. Obviously, the bigs, you want to be able to say, you have to meet some requirements too.
Correct.
What would those be?
Well, we have two different programs. So for our community-based program, where the volunteer does pick up the child and partners with the parent and they're allowed to go out in the community and go to the park or the movies or a ball game, you have to be 21 and up. And there are some eligibility requirements that you can find on our website about criminal background, experience with youth. For the most part, our volunteers are normal folks in our community that have said, I want to support a child in our community. So you don't have to be a teacher or a social worker or someone who's even had experience with youth. And then for our school-based program, we do take college students, and we even have high school bigs in that program, as well as working adults. So the age requirement is different for our school-based program.
So we could be talking just a couple of years apart in terms of the little and the big, in some instances,
Yep,
obviously.
correct. But really we're looking for folks that can form positive, healthy relationships with the child.
Let's talk a little bit more, Carly, about that specific relationship, because I think a lot of people are probably curious to know, you know, one, how involved can I be? But two, what is it that's required of me when I do actually get a little? You know, am I taking them to the movies? Am I just chatting with them, you know, on the phone to kind of offer support? Or what is it that's needed most?
The answer is yes to all that. So sometimes you will go to the movies in our community-based program where you can transport the child. You'll go to the movies, you'll go to a ball game, you'll run errands. We have littles who love going to the car wash because their family has not owned a car before. So sometimes just bringing along a child in your daily life and role modeling those daily skills is really important. And then you'll also keep in touch with the child over letters or phone calls. Kids love getting mail when you're on vacation. And in our school-based program, they do not leave the school. So they're spending time, that hour they're spending together is playing games, reading, going to the playground, interacting with that child's peers in the lunchroom to see what those relationships are like. And they're also able to keep in touch over school breaks and have that relationship via phone or letters. So.
A friend of mine at a former job was a big, and he had his little come to work too.
Yeah,
so
we love that.
obviously they probably enjoy that aspect of it too.
Yes. I think the biggest piece, when people say, what is a mentor? It's a word we use a lot, but sometimes we don't sit down and really define it. But the biggest piece of being a mentor is being a role model and seeing someone in a workplace, or we have had kids come to our board meetings at Big Brothers Big Sisters, and that's the first time they're like, what is a board? I don't know what a board of directors is, or an advisory board. So those life experiences are really important, as well as mixing it up with fun things and getting out and exploring new interests and exploring Middle Tennessee. So.
Sure. All right. So a recent study shows that little brothers and little sisters are less likely to engage in risky behaviors being involved in a program such as this. So why would you say that's the case?
One of the main things we want our volunteers to work with our kids on are their own aspirations and goals. And when you can get a kid excited about that and tap into it and start planning for their future, they begin to think about decisions they make from that angle. How is this going to impact the goal that I've set for myself if I choose to smoke, or if I choose to drink, or if I choose to hang out with these people? So I think by a volunteer standing alongside a child and saying, what do you want for your future, and really tapping into that with the child, then the child starts to think of themselves and the decisions they make for themselves differently. And the role modeling piece, like I said. So volunteers talking to them about how they keep themselves healthy. You know, they walk in the mornings, or they exercise, or they eat their fruits and vegetables, or they go to the doctor, and just having those conversations about what life is like as an adult and how you take care of yourself and be independent.
Sure. You know, for so many reasons, obviously, you can probably easily understand why it would be beneficial for someone who is a really young child. But for teenagers, it seems like sometimes they struggle with even communicating with their parents or a parent or teachers. So this probably obviously also encourages them to have another outlet to be able to speak to somebody, and I imagine that that's beneficial as well.
Yes, and surprisingly, our youth report that they have stronger relationships with their parents from having been mentored.
That's excellent.
And I really think that comes from learning to communicate with adults in a different way, being able to articulate your goals and what you want for yourself and having those conversations, and the mentor also looping the parent in on what's happening in that relationship, so the parent can say, hey, wait, he didn't tell me about that, but I want to know more about that, and then goes back to the child and has a conversation that hadn't happened before.
Yeah, we talked about involvement in terms of what, you know, the bigs, I mean, what's expected of them, but really in terms of breaking it down with time on any given week, is there expectations by the organization to say, you know what, if you really want to be a mentor, we really require that you spend this much time, really to make it fair and equal for all kids to benefit in the program?
We ask for at least an hour a week with your little. In the school-based program, it will be an hour period. You probably will not spend more time than that because they have to get back to class.
Sure.
And we want them to learn math too.
That's
and then the
understandable.
community-based program, if you go to a movie or something like that, you might spend 2 or 3 hours, but it is seeing your little once a week for at least an hour.
Okay. Also, let's talk, Carly, about the program in general in terms of how long you will have this little, because some people have that relationship for a very long time.
Yes.
Others, you end up having, let's face it, a lot of people have to move for jobs and different things like that. So what do you require as far as that's concerned?
We require a year commitment for either program. I am proud to say that in our community-based program, our average match length right now is almost 4 years. So we have folks that on average are lasting 3 years longer than we ask of them. And in our school-based program, we have an average match length of about 2 years. So once people get connected, and we spend so much time really making that match and thinking really carefully about what's going to start this match on the right foot. Is this the right person for this child? Is this the right child for this volunteer? And I think that really makes a difference in our average match length too.
And if you all do have a situation to where the child maybe moves or you know, the mentor moves, how do you rearrange to where you can kind of pick up? I mean, obviously that relationship might be a pen pal situation at that time or stay in touch via email. But do you try to quickly then replace that person with someone else so that they don't miss a beat when we're, you know, when we're trying to live life and continue that encouragement for them?
Yeah, we assess that situation on a case-by-case basis.
Sure.
So some children, we really want that match to be the right match. So we don't match quickly just to get a child rematched or a volunteer rematched, but we want it to be another good fit. So there's a lot of thought that goes into that, but we are open to rematching people if they would like to be rematched.
When someone says, I would like to be a mentor of somebody maybe in elementary school, middle school, high school, do you all say, you know, if you're qualified to, this is the specific need they have, Do you know at some point these at-risk youth, you know, this is what they benefit from most? Can you kind of explain to people what it is that would be essential for these kids of all ages? Because obviously it differs depending on who the little is.
Yeah, so part of our process if you're coming in as a volunteer is we require you to go through an interview.
Okay.
And that interview is pretty in-depth, and we ask a lot of questions about your preference and your experience with youth so that we can kind of talk with you about what that right age range would be for you based on your expectations.
Right.
So if you really want to help a kid with college, we're not going to match you with a 6-year-old because they're not even thinking about college yet.
That's right.
So we really consider that on the front end when we match. And then each of our matches is supported by a professional staff person that's helping guide that match and the goals that the child has identified, and also help guide the volunteer on how they can support the child. So giving them resources or activities or language to use with that child to support them depending on the age of that child and their areas of growth.
For folks out there listening today and wanting to know, okay, this sounds like a program I definitely want to get involved in. I'm sure there will be. How do they go about making that first step? Do they give you a call? Do they go to the website, or what can they do?
Sure, they can give us a call at 615-329-9191.
Okay.
And our staff would be glad to answer that call, answer any questions they have, and then talk more with them about our requirements. Or they can go to our website too.
Okay. And does the process take a while? Should someone expect, you know, this is going to take a couple months until I can be assigned to somebody?
Yes.
Or what is that time frame?
Yes, so we will first sign you up to have an interview with a staff person, and then you're asked to go to an orientation as a new volunteer to learn more about our program and more about child development and the needs of the children we serve. And then our staff does an amazing job at really being thoughtful about looking for that right little for you. And sometimes that takes time, especially depending on what area of town you live in.
Okay. Carly, to make a lasting impression with everybody, as you already have, I know, but just in terms of, you know, hammering home again the importance of a mentor, what would you say the biggest reason is as to why this is essential for at-risk kids?
I think kids need positive, caring adults in their lives, especially now in the crazy world that we live in. I mean, you just have to turn on and watch any news to know that kids are having to make tough decisions and process tough things. And I think the more that we can surround kids with positive, caring adults, the more likely they are to make positive decisions for themselves and be successful and reach their full potential.
Absolutely. Well said. Carly Southworth with Big Brothers Big Sisters of Middle Tennessee.
Thank you.
We really appreciate your time today.
Thank you for having me.
So nice visiting with you.
Thanks.
And thank you all for watching Community Health Matters.